Well, hello, members of the campus. We'll let people filter in for a minute or so. I see we're up to about 175, so bear with us just for 1 second as we let people come into the room. All right, we're slowing down a little bit. It's great to have you here today. And as you know, we've made these town halls a habit on our campus, an opportunity for us to come together at least once per semester to share ideas and to hear your questions and to provide information that will help answer those questions. And so we're delighted that you took the time to come aboard and to be part of the session today. And we look forward to the questions. There's a Q&A function in Zoom. So when we get to that point, which is now, you can start typing your questions and we'll have answers teed up for you. We got zero pre-questions in advance of today's session. So it's really what's happening live that we're going to respond to. But before we get to the Q&A, and again, you can start typing your questions now, I'd like to introduce one of our newest leaders on campus, and that's Dr. Marjorie Jenkins, who joins us as Vice President for Health Affairs and Dean of the School of Medicine and Health Sciences. So Dr. Jenkins, Marjorie, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, sir. I'm really happy to be here and look forward to meeting everyone and walking around campus when it's a little more, maybe a little warmer. I'm from South Carolina, so I'm still getting used to it.
We did have a conversation earlier, I guess it was when you first showed up, about who had the coldest arrival to Grand Forks among all of the senior leadership team. And I think perhaps you had probably the coldest. So congratulations. It's a great distinction.
That's okay. It's worth it, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Great to see you. And in addition, a lot happening on campus, in addition to the leadership change. And I always take this opportunity to thank Dr. Josh Wynn for his years of leadership of the School of Medicine and Health Science. But we are certainly excited to have Dr. Jenkins take that important leadership role for the school. We have other things on campus too. And in fact, we have 2 dean searches happening right now. And I'll turn it over to our Provost Eric Link for just a quick update on those 2 dean searches.
Thank you so much, President Armacost, and greetings everyone out there in the town hall. Yes, we have 2 dean searches that are in the very early stages of getting started on our campus. Dean Tandy of College of Engineering and Mines, as all of you know, has assumed a new position as president of South Dakota Mines. And that he's already started in that role. And we have Dr. Ryan Adams in an interim dean capacity in CEM right now. But we have seated the search committee, and the search committee is already hard at work. We anticipate that the advertisement will go national first week of February on the CEM dean search. We also, the other Brian on the Dean's Council, Dean Brian Pappas, has accepted a role as Chancellor at Indiana University South Bend. Of course, we hate to see Brian go, but he's going to be an outstanding Chancellor for IU South Bend. We are in the very earliest stages of getting that search up and running, but wheels are in motion there as well. I had a chance to visit with the law school staff and faculty just about a week or so ago and kind of go over in broad strokes the structure of the search that we will use. We've engaged with an executive search firm, and we're starting to seat a committee for that search as well. I don't have any timeline. I don't have a clear sense of the timeline for that search right now, but we are all wheels in motion for getting that search launched. And I would like to, President Armacost, at this point, hand the baton to Vice Provost Dr. Karyn Plumm to talk not about a search we're about to launch, but just to say a couple words about a search that just recently concluded. Karyn, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you and express gratitude to Daphne Peterson and the members of the search committee for the Essential Studies Director position. We will be welcoming Dr. Breeann Flesch as the new ES Director. She begins her position on February 18th. An announcement did go out in the university letter January 8th, if you want to take a look at that information. She's joining us from Western Oregon University, and I'm working right now to make sure she has the opportunity to meet with everybody across campus as she gets started with us.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Plumm. Appreciate that update. And I will say to my colleagues, I think I'm having internet connection issues here because I have some breaky sound. So if you lose my voice, somebody please text me if I'm just not being heard. The other points I wanted to bring up before we get to the questions and answers, and I see a whole bunch rolling in, is to let you know that the legislative session has begun. We're now in the third week, and our own Peter Johnson has been on site for both the previous 2 weeks, and he's there right now. And he's monitoring things and paying close attention to the testimony that's being given on bills of interest to the University of North Dakota. Our team is actively monitoring and watching the bills as they come in. Just on the evening, another 200 bills were submitted. So we're watching very carefully, determining strategy, and then also what response the university will make, either pro or for or neutral with the respective bills that we see. So we'll keep the campus posted. There's, if you go to und.edu/legislative, you can see a listing of the documents that we've presented in testimony already. So that's a good place to go. Again, it's und.edu/legislative. So find information there. It'll hopefully be useful to you. In addition, one of the elements of our testimony was highlighting some of the good news stories happening at UND. And let me pull up or ask her to come aboard. Janelle Kilgore, our Vice Provost for Strategic Enrollment Management. Enrollment last fall and this spring has been exceptional, great trends. And I think we're looking into the future to next fall with some great news. So let me turn it over to Janelle for a quick update.
Good afternoon, everybody. Janelle Kilgore, Vice Provost of Enrollment Management. Spring 2025 is well on its way. This is the 12th week of registration, and so we have yet to hit our official census numbers, which happen on February 10th. But as of right now, our spring enrollment is up just above 7%, so roughly 966 students, according to University Analytics and Planning. So we have roughly, 14,300 students as of earlier this week. So lots of really good things happening across campus. So thank you for helping onboard our new students that came to spring semester and welcoming back our students that came from fall. We have a really strong fall to spring retention rate as well, or persistent rate. So thanks to all those involved with that. So fall 2025, our admissions funnel is been very strong and active. We had a very active class for fall 2024. Our fall 2025 classes is also very strong and active. So we are anticipating that we will have another strong incoming freshman class like we had for fall 24. So we were working with the academic deans, just provided some additional information to them this morning. So if you're preparing for classes and sections and things like that for the fall, we anticipate, if you want to look at what our model was for this, or the class offerings were for this fall, probably should be a good standpoint of that, and maybe a few more seats or a few more sections. So additional information there. But our transfer market is really strong. We haven't even really hit our peak transfer season. So I know the academic areas will be, academic advisors will be reaching out for transfer equivalencies and things like that. So thanks in advance for all that additional work. Timing is really important on the transfer population, as they want to make sure that they can get a quick response right back. And so again, a lot of great work has been done in that arena as well. And grad committees are making decisions on students for the fall semester. We know that. We can see the applications and the admit pools are up from prior years. So just continuing to ask that you do that work. That'll be really important as we kind of onboard this incoming fall class. Just a couple real quick important dates that we have from the admissions office is on March 7th and April 4th, we have Admitted Students Day. And these are students that come visit campus that might be on the fence. They're probably thinking of maybe a couple different campuses or kind of trying to figure out if UND is the right fit. So we will be welcoming a couple groups of students that are kind of ready to make a decision but haven't made that decision quite yet. So I know our admissions team is working with all the academic units that are involved right now. If you have questions or want more information, please reach out to Jen Ahmet, our Director of University Admissions. So back to you, President Armacost.
Great update. Thanks so much, Janelle, for giving all that great info to everybody who's here today. The last thing I wanted to do is just give the stage to our athletic director, Bill Chaves, to talk a little bit about some coaching changes, both on our women's soccer program and men's football. So Bill, over to you.
I appreciate it, Dr. Armacost. I hope everyone is keeping warm. Yeah, two head coaches accepted positions back in December, so we're excited to have Henrik Sohn, just the 9th head coach in women's soccer history, and then also Eric Schmidt was brought back to campus after a hiatus of about 5 years, and he's just the 5th head coach in 28 head coaches in football to have played at UND. So we're excited about Coach Schmidt and his staff. So we're up and running, but I appreciate it, Dr. Armacost.
Great. Thanks so much, Bill. And now let me turn it over to Vice President Melanie Linder, Vice President of Marketing and Communications, who does an amazing job with the flow here. She's going to MC the Q&A session here. So thanks for leading this portion, Melanie.
Thank you, President Armacost, and thank you for everyone who's joining us today. Oh, looks like I might be having some internet glitches as well. But the first question I'm going to kick over to Dr. Tombakwe Bailey. Tombakwe Bailey, could you please answer, in light of the continued efforts to diminish the rights of our LGBTQ+ community members in North Dakota, what can allies within UND do to help support this community of students, faculty, and staff?
Thank you, Vice President Linder. Thank you, President Armacost, for this opportunity for us to have our town hall today. I think it's a really good question in terms of looking at what's happening on a national landscape and then what do we do at the institution. What I'll say is that first I'll start with that's what President Armacost always talks about in terms of how do we begin to love our community and be supportive of our community as a whole. Specifically, I'll talk about, and I'll come back to what we do as allies, but I want to talk about what's happening in the Pride Center, which I think is a lot's happening this semester. So one of the things that Dr. Jeff Molesky, who is the director of the Pride Center, has instituted something called Q Chat. And so it's the opportunity for LGBTQ+ faculty and staff to get together, have lunch. Oftentimes we have students who are there. It's open to everybody to come into the Pride Center. So we're doing that. Also, the work that Dr. Molesky is doing with students. So there's a study table that's happening. And then on Fridays, there's February Fab Fridays where students are get together. They're different. Well, actually, everybody is welcome, but there are different activities that are available. So that I hope you all hear that our Pride Center is vibrant, it is functioning, it is going well. And that students are utilizing the space. The Pride Center is open to everyone, students, faculty, and staff. And so allies are welcome in that space. We're on the 2nd floor in the Memorial Union. One of the things that we also have is that there are funds associated with the Pride Center in working with the UND Alumni Association and Foundation. So for those who want to give and support students in that way, and those funds help students who are in emergency, so deal with emergency needs and helping to support students who may identify as LGBTQ+. I think the other thing is that throughout campus, while we don't do we have moved away specifically from the ally training, we are continuing to make sure and really want allies to be present on the campus and to let students and other faculty and staff know that we have those individuals here on campus. So again, come to our Pride Center. For those who are allies and want to be recognized as such, we have information that you can pick up and that you can provide. So we're continuing to work, and I see Melanie coming on here, so it's for me to not run my mouth too much here, but I want you all to know that the Pride Center, that the president and that the EC is continue to be supportive of our LGBTQ+ community, and we'll continue to do so regardless of what we see happening and the national landscape. It doesn't change the idea that we are continuing to care for our community.
Just to amplify that last point that Tom Bequee made, we as human beings, as people here on an amazing campus that I believe is known for how we support one another, have an opportunity here that regardless of what laws or policies or what the changes are, and we have to abide by those, it doesn't change the opportunity we have to treat each other with the ultimate sense of dignity and respect, and to treat each other with kindness on a daily basis. When I first, you remember it in the first year on campus, my number one philosophy was love your people. And let's make sure that that love and that sense of support extends to everybody on our campus through the way that we interact, the way that we build friendships, the way that we just greet each other on the streets as we're walking to and from class or to and from work. So that sense of respect really matters, and you do it so well. Let's continue doing it.
Thank you so much to both of you. The next question, I'm going to actually ask President Armacost if you would start with it, and then I'm sure you'll have others that you'll invite to the conversation. There's concern about the attack on the Department of Education on the DEI movement, and our listener would like to hear about the thoughts from our administration on this. Can you answer that?
The executive order is, what, 24 hours old or so. So there's a lot of information that will come in the aftermath of that executive order. I would encourage everybody to go read it. You can go to the whitehouse.gov site, and under executive orders, you will see it. It's probably the first one on there. So I would encourage everybody to go read it, understand what it says, understand what it doesn't say. And then what we'll have to do is wait for specific guidance to come from the Department of Education. And then our great team of lawyers, our Attorney General's office, both here on campus and in Bismarck, are definitely going to have to do some reading to understand what are the impacts. This happened previously. In fact, if you think about the Student for Fair Admissions lawsuit, there was a Supreme Court case that ruled in favor of that group, and it forced all campuses to look at how they awarded scholarships. And so, of course, UND did that, and it takes time to understand what the law says, what the executive order says, versus what we're doing in practice, and then making smart decisions. Again, we have an obligation to comply with the law without question, but we will also look for ways to make sure that we're supporting every student on our campus. So the headlines, of course, they jump out at you and they catch your attention. There's much more to this than the headlines, so we have to be very careful how we interpret what's been written. I do, with regard to, I think there's within 120 days, additional guidance that will come from the Department of Education regarding scholarships and admissions. But of course, there was a presidential mandate within that executive order to close down all DEI offices within federal organizations. And there were also impacts on groups considered to be federal contractors, which UND is. So we have to watch this very carefully, understand very deliberately about what the law tells us, and then make smart decisions for the campus. And it sounds benign. I know there's probably a lot of worry out there. And let me just assure you that me and the entire leadership at the university want to make sure the people on this campus are taken care of, that you're heard, that there's open dialogue, that we share information as we learn it. And you have my pledge and my commitment to do exactly that. I don't know if there are others. I don't know if Donna Smith is aboard. I don't think she is. The provost might have some additional comments as well, or Nancy Yan, if she's here, our Attorney General, if you have any thoughts. I don't know that Nancy's here today, but that's the president's perspective. And let's keep supporting one another, as I said previously.
Thank you, President Armacost. The next question we received, I'm going to turn that over to Vice President Mojan Stewart. What is the feeling for annual raises in the coming legislative biennium? The cost of living inflation has been way more than the annual raises for the last several years. Vice President Stewart.
Thank you, Melanie. Hi, everybody. It's Carla Mojan Stewart. I'm the Vice President for Finance and Operations. I'm so glad so many of you took time to join us today. The governor's recommendation for state employee increases is a 4% increase in FY26 and a 3% increase in FY27. The legislature, of course, can make recommendations outside of that, but that's what we're modeling right now because that's the information that we have available that's coming from the governor. And that did come from both Governor Burgum and from the new Governor Armstrong. So those are the amounts that we are modeling at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, our next question, I'm going to turn over to Provost Link. And I know you're probably going to invite other people to the conversation as well. Provost Link, is there a cap on how many students that UND can take? Our growth is good, but do we have a magic number in mind where we want to be that is sustainable?
Thank you so much for the question. And I absolutely love this question because we are in the envious position as a university where we get to actually ask about capacity. And how large our institution can grow. As you all know, not many institutions right now across the US get to ask that question. It's a bit of a nuanced question, and I'll try to just paint in some broad strokes here because there's a lot of nuances here, but no, there is not a magic number that we're trying to achieve right now in terms of ultimate overall headcount enrollment, because capacity comes in many different shapes and sizes. We do have certain individual programs on this campus that are at capacity right now. We just, for reasons that are out of our control, for one reason or another, could not admit more students into a specific program. There aren't too many programs like that across the college, but there are a handful of them. And they are some of our best known programs. We're consistently talking about, say, enrollment in commercial aviation and where are we at in terms of capacity in that program. And there are other programs that operate according to cohort size and have all kinds of regulations about the ratio of faculty to students admitted and so forth. So there just isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to the question of capacity in individual academic programs. As an institution, we have, speaking in the broadest terms, lots of capacity. If you just look at, and Scott Carell, our university registrar, could cite all kinds of facts and statistics off the top of his head, I'm sure. But when you look at the available classrooms across campus, across, the full work day, well, the educational day, which goes to like 10 o'clock at night, outside of Tuesday and Thursday from say 9 in the morning to about 2, 3 in the afternoon, outside of those times, there's considerable capacity to add classes, add sections, and so forth on this campus. Our mission as a university, of course, is not to drive to a specific enrollment number, but instead to make sure that we are providing the right array of programming to meet the needs of our state, our region, our students, and so forth. So we're going to keep pressing in that direction. And I'm very fortunate that we as an institution are in a place where asking about capacity makes sense. Thanks for the great question. I might ask if Janelle Kilgore, from her perspective over admissions, wanted to add any color commentary to this.
Yeah, just a couple of things I think to maybe add here is Jen and I do meet with all the academic deans annually and just kind of talk through where enrollment goals and things like that are. A really strong example of this is our commercial aviation program. knowing it's a very technical program and aircraft and things like that are very specific. So we do look at what the capacity is for that incoming class to make sure we can ensure students will graduate in their kind of 4 years, or do our best on our part to make sure students graduate in 4 years. So we actually do close down the admissions application when we get to a certain point of number of applications and a number of admits. So we do have those conversations. We want to be very strategic in what our growth looks like. It's not just growth because of growth. Our goal is to make sure that students can continue to thrive. Our campus can support in all different types of ways. So really good question. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Provost Link and Janelle Kilgore. The next question, I'm actually going to turn it back over to Provost Link. And it's a rather long question, so I'm going to try to just summarize it the best that I can. Provost Link, what steps have been taken to ensure that classes are available to students during the registration period? In essence, we have such a large incoming class, and as one of the things we want to make sure to do is to retain them and help them graduate in a timely manner. So wanting to make sure that we have classes available when students need them.
Thank you so much. This is another great question, and it goes a little bit hand in hand with the question that we were just talking about in terms of capacity. Anytime an institution sees the kind of growth that we've seen in the past year and in which we anticipate continuing into next year as well, there are going to be scheduling difficulties. So in terms of what my office does and people within the Academic Affairs Organization, we of course, and the question even noted this, run on a weekly basis analytical reports on recruitment and retention efforts and on registration and so forth. So we have particularly every Tuesday of every week during a registration period, we run a set of reports. We regularly provide some analysis on those metrics to the Dean's Council. So we make sure on a weekly basis, and again, this is thanks to the work not just of UAP and of course Janelle Kilgore, but also I want to highlight Jeff Holm and his staff, who provide a great deal of analysis and data about where our admissions and recruitment and retention efforts are headed. And of course, I'll turn it over to Karyn Plumm in just a minute to talk a little bit more in the weeds from a student success operation, what they do. But we have to rely a great deal on the leadership of individual department chairs and deans to make sure that they are putting together the plans needed to ensure that students can get the courses they need at the times they need it in the sequence that they need it. That's work that takes place primarily locally within the colleges and the departments. I'll stop there and ask Karyn to say a couple words from the student success side.
Thank you, Provost Link. So just to give everybody kind of an idea about what we work on each semester as students continue with us or are new to the university, we have staff in my unit that look very closely at both the essential studies requirements that students have, as well as programmatic requirements that they have as they're coming in. We work really closely with the deans, particularly the Dean of Arts and Sciences, because a lot of our new students need some of those lower level essential studies courses as they're coming in. We recently also worked with the University Analytics and Planning. Chief Data Officer Matt Borosic provided some training on a new tool called Course Demand Analytics to a lot of the associate deans and the data fellows in the college that work on some of the making sure that they have enough sections of the courses that our students are looking for as they come in. We have been over the past couple of years trying to tackle particularly where transfer students tend to come in. They're a little bit all over the place. So we're kind of working on them case by case as they come into the university about where they're at, what courses they need, how to ensure that they have the equivalencies for courses they might have taken elsewhere. So it's quite a process that involves the admissions team, the registrar's office team, the advisors on our side, and we work really closely with the dean's office and the associate deans across the campus to make sure that we have enough seats for students. We do run into issues here and there where it's just not possible to add seats in some areas or to add sections in some areas. That does happen, but we're getting better at making sure that we have enough room for all of the students coming in. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for that answer. I'm going to send the next question over to President Armacost to start us off. And President Armacost, if you would answer, with the shift in the political climate, is our institution at risk for layoffs? There's some fear about job security.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. Great question. You have to understand how our university is funded, and Carla Mojan-Stewart can probably come on and say even more than I, but in general, the state funds us to the tune of about 23% of our total budget. I'd say about 35% of our budget is through tuition. The state pays us based on what's called the higher ed funding formula, which is based on how many credit hours we produce on campus. The state legislature has been very supportive of higher education throughout, and we've seen their continued support, at least since I've been here and probably over at least a decade. We had one blip back in like 2015, 2016. But what we're seeing is based on the higher ed funding formula, the revenues that are coming from the state to the University of North Dakota will increase in this biennium. And I think we're in great shape. I think this is impervious or unaffected by the change in administration or any political headwinds here in the state of North Dakota. So I think we're in really, really good shape. As we've grown in size, good things happen in terms of the money that comes to us. Carla, I don't know if you had any additional thoughts there.
Nope, I think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
All right, President Armacost, please stay with us just for a second. The next question, I think, ties right into that, about your thoughts of the recent order to pull all federal DEI employees on paid leave in a move towards laying them off at the federal level and further removing DEI agencies.
Right, as I said before, and this will be kind of a common theme, there's a lot we're going to have to wait and see about how these executive orders and other legislative changes potentially are put into practice and impact the University of North Dakota and other universities. I have friends who are in positions, in DEI positions around the nation and at federal agencies. And I know that I haven't talked to them yet this morning to find out what their reaction is, but I think that move was pretty quick and came as a surprise to them, undoubtedly. I know that we have to continue on our campuses to make sure that whether we have offices on DEI or not, that we keep those principles that I talked about up front, about treating each other with that kindness and that good spirit and that sense of respect, have to pervade our campus. And we have to make sure that that we come together and have a sense of belonging for people who come from any background, and they can come to the University of North Dakota and achieve success and to set them up for their lives after UND. We owe that to our students. We do, and we must make sure that everybody has that chance to succeed here at UND. So I don't want to sound. I know that there's many people on our campus sounding an alarm, and I need to encourage everyone to say, let's find out the details, and let's keep looking out for one another. Let's keep pledging our support to one another to make this, regardless of what's happening in the political landscape, make sure the University of North Dakota is that welcoming place for everyone.
President Armacost, thank you so much. We're going to switch gears to talk about weather. The next question, is about on December 19th, there was a winter weather event. And while other area school districts plus Mayville State University either delayed opening or closed, the conditions were tough to travel to campus. And they're wondering, why did UND remain open with no delay in such conditions? President Armacost or Chief Clark, would you like to kick us off with that question?
I can start anyways, Melanie. Good afternoon, everyone. I remember this day well, the snowy morning, finals week. I was up here in the office about 5 o'clock or 5:30, kind of looking at the data. I think what I'd like everybody to understand the most is that, there's a lot of variables and dynamics that go into these decisions, right? And we know full well, or I know full well anyways, that, not everybody's going to be satisfied at all times with the decisions that are made. And I take a great deal of responsibility for, being involved in that process and trying to look at the data and see what's going on for the weather that day. Like I said, that was a finals week, some of those things come into play as well. While we do appreciate the decisions that other institutions make, and at times we try to align ourselves with those decisions, we also, the most important thing is to look out for the best interest of UND and make sure everybody's safe, everybody has the opportunity to take their tests and go to class or take finals on that day. So there's a lot of variables that go into those decisions. Ultimately, the decision was made to have class and have finals that day, and that's the decision that we support. I apologize if not everybody sees it that way, but in those situations, sometimes those decisions, have to be made, knowing full well that not everybody's going to be satisfied with it. Dr. Armacost, I seen you pop up.
Yeah.
If you want to add anything.
So Chief was kind to put it all in the passive voice. Decisions were made. I'm the one who made the decision, and as he points out, there's lots of factors that go in. It turns out you would think Thursday morning final exams would just be a few exams. It turns out it was our single largest exam period of the entire finals week. I think there were close to, Eric Link, you can probably correct me, but close to 3,000 students who had a final exam at 8 o'clock in the morning. And in the interest of making sure that we wouldn't further delay their journey home or send them into the break with an incomplete grade only to have to come back to take final exams, we weighed that off with what we were seeing in real time with the weather. We were up all night watching it and paying close attention and making good judgments. We thought they were the best judgments at the time. And so we were able to pull off a busy day of final exams and then celebrate commencement the next day. I would also encourage, if you're in a situation because we're so spread out, people travel from long distances, a quick call to your supervisor to let them know about, wow, I'm really socked in here and I need to continue to shovel out. I might be a few minutes late. I would hope that supervisors would offer grace in situations like that. I would expect them to offer grace and to recognize that your safety is the most important thing to me and to the leadership team. On that particular day, we had a lot of factors we had to consider, and given the conditions, we thought that was the best decision. Provost, I saw you pop up. Eric.
Yes, I was just going to confirm that, as you noted, in that 8 o'clock final exam slot, we had close to, I forget the exact number, but nearly 3,000 students taking final exams. And over the course of that Thursday, I think around 7,500 students taking final exams. It was the single busiest hour, 8 o'clock, and day, Thursday, of the entire final exam week. But as you've indicated, as Chief Clark indicated, that was not, of course, the only factor that weighed in on these decisions. They are complicated decisions, but we certainly tried to act in the best interest of the students and of the university.
Thank you both so much for that. Next question I'm going to send over to Vice Provost Janelle Kilgore, and that is, does the university have anything for staff to help guide our international students who may be detained, miss class, or cannot return to class?
Hello again, everybody. Yes, please, if you have a student that you have concerns on, please connect with our International Center team. They do track and communicate and work with students. We have worked with agents at the border or at the airport security and trying to make sure that the students have all the accurate paperwork to get back into the United States. Students that were maybe traveling between the semesters were encouraged to come back. And again, making sure they have all the appropriate paperwork. Maybe they're going up to Canada for a weekend. There's additional paperwork for that. At the beginning of every semester, the International Center team also has an orientation that goes very specifically specifically into kind of the regulations that these students and the paperwork the students need to have to be able to enter in and out of our country without interruption. But it does happen. And so please make sure that that team is aware. We do try to communicate with those different types of things. So if a student may have been detained and sent back to their country, that team can work with the student to try to see when they can get back into the country. And maybe we can work with the faculty members in regards to trying to get, their coursework online for a couple weeks or whatever it might be. But we do occasionally run into those situations. If you're working with international students right now, we have roughly 1,000 students from 96 different countries. So we actually have quite a few students. Please, if you have concerns on them, please let us know. We are kind of tracking it and trying to help in many different ways. So if there's questions, please reach out to either myself or the International Center team. We have updated the International Center website recently, so there's some additional resources there and information there too that might be helpful for you as a staff or a faculty as we kind of try to support students.
Thank you so much, Janelle. The next question I'm going to send over to Provost Link. Provost Link, many departments are struggling to fill faculty positions for many reasons, whether it's pay, location, etc. What are some of the things that the Provost office is doing to assist?
This is a great question and a bit of a complicated one, but I'll try and give a short answer. So most hiring, as faculty and staff know, is largely conducted at the local level, right? Within the departments, within the colleges that are doing the hiring. What we try to make sure in my office and the entire staff, the vice provost, we try to make sure that any assistance, any help, any interpretation of policy or protocol, any comp reviews, any reviews we need to navigate with finance, we try to facilitate those reviews as quickly as possible. Our goal is days, not weeks, on turnaround time for R2Rs, request to recruit forms. So everything that we do in my office is intended to expedite the quick review of the R2Rs and to make sure that the departments and the deans have the information they need to support the searches and have help in protocol and if we need to help with policy interpretation, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, hiring can be a challenge. It is a challenge that is not equally felt among all departments on campus, of course. Some disciplines, it is more difficult to hire in than others. In some staff positions, it is more difficult to hire in than others. But we certainly are here to do our best to support the deans, the department chairs, and the unit leaders to make it as efficient and as quick as we can on those reviews and hiring processes.
And Eric, let me just offer one other thought too, and that is know that your deans, your provost, and your president are here to help. So there are times where if you're trying to fill an important position or even an unimportant position, they're all important, by the way. We're happy to make phone calls to your top candidates and say, we really want you to come to UND. And we don't have magical powers, but sometimes just a friendly voice from a senior leader on campus can help sway a candidate to come to UND.
Thank you both so much. The next question actually is for you again, President Armacost, and that is, why is the president's office so empty?
That's funny. I realized as we signed on, there could be rumors starting. The only rumor is that we're moving out of Twomley and over into Carnegie, which is adjacent. So if you look around my office, you'll see a whole bunch of boxes over there. And we're just packed up and ready to roll. So thanks for asking.
Thanks so much. Next question, I'm going to turn over to Vice Provost Karyn Plumm. Karyn, with the growing enrollment, my department has an incredible advisor with great advisors across campus. Is there any discussion of adding more advisors to campus to support our growing enrollment?
Thanks, Vice President Linder. The simple answer to that is yes, but just to give a little bit more detail about how we manage the number of students versus the number of advisors, we use the guidelines that are put forward from the National Academic Advising Association, otherwise known as NACADA. They provide some guidelines on what a caseload for each professional advisor should look like, and we try to keep our advising caseloads within those guidelines. As the number of students grows, certain caseloads will grow with that. And in those cases, we do add advisors. We take a look at where we're at in terms of student enrollment after census each semester, but particularly in the fall semester, because that tends to be our biggest one. For example, this fall, with the growth in students in engineering, we did add an advisor in the College of Engineering. So yes, we are looking at that very closely.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next question, I'm going to send it back over to President Armacost. I'm sure you may have others that you'll bring in to speak on this as well. But with all the students on campus and the in-class learning, is UND going to have everyone return to the office and stop all remote work?
I know, hit the microphone. Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I've really left it to each individual vice president and unit to come up with their approach. There's some that rely heavily on, not heavily, but have some remote workers. Take the EERC, for example, which in order to attract expertise in the types of energy research and energy study that they do, they have people from remote locations who work. They do an exceptional job, by the way, with their Summer Connect program to bring remote workers to campus and build that sense of community. We are in a human business, so the importance of connecting is vital. So I always think being on campus is a great idea, a great way to interact and build that sense of community. There are some functions and some life circumstances that people have that allow them to either work hybrid schedules or remote schedules. The number who are doing that, I think, are fairly small. And I know that Peggy Varberg and her team have looked at remote work, and we have some policies in place that describe when and where it's appropriate. So I don't know. Let me over to see if Carla Mojon Stewart has anything to add. There's not going to be a mandate to say everybody back. But I do want to make sure that we continue to stress the importance of being together, of building those human relationships with our students and with one another. Carla, any additional thoughts?
Thank you, Andy. You summarized it very well. HR works extensively with all of the areas. First, to assess if a remote work environment is possible for the positions and jobs, and oftentimes who are their clients. Do they need to be in person? And as you mentioned, those really vary depending on the type of work that is done. And those that do have remote or hybrid workers, are monitoring the progress of those individuals just as they would if they were sitting in the office next to them. And I assume that will continue as there are certain positions where it is necessary to allow remote or hybrid work in order to even recruit or retain a qualified applicant. So, we look at that on a case-by-case basis, and HR is involved in all of those to ensure that is not a detriment to the campus for that position to be remote.
All right, thank you both so much. Vice President Mojan Stewart, would you stay on? Because the next question I'm going to turn over to you, and that is, what is the status of Gamble and Columbia Halls? And is Columbia Hall going offline in the next academic year?
Thank you, Melanie. So Columbia Hall is coming down. We have a target date of 18 months. And so we're working really, really closely with the occupants of Columbia Hall to determine how we can get them into different spaces as soon as possible. And so we are actively working on that, and we will be working very closely with all the departments that are involved in that building today and where they might be moving. Gamble Hall is presenting itself to be an option for potentially getting us out of Columbia. If not temporarily or permanently, we have again yet to assess that space, but we definitely are planning on using Gamble at least in the short term, and potentially make investments to keep it long term, depending on what we determine to be the best case scenario for the occupants of Columbia today. So any specific questions on that, please reach out to Marcy Simpson on my team. She is guiding the transition from Columbia. So if you have specific questions, please reach out to her or reach out to your dean or your chair if you are specifically involved in the Columbia Hall transition. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. President Armacost, I'm going to take the next two questions and merge them and turn them over to you. How are we managing what can appear to be competing interests in the legislative session amongst the North Dakota University System institutions? And also, how can staff and faculty be a helpful voice to the conversation?
Wonderful question. There are always competing interests, as you can imagine. And we rely heavily on the North Dakota University System staff to help navigate and come up with a consistent message to the legislature on those competing interests. Hopefully we can reconcile and not have anything that appears to be in competition. In addition, I routinely have conversations with other presidents, and our vice presidents talk with their counterparts at other schools to try to reconcile anything that might be contentious. But that's the nature of when you're asking for funding. People tend to go in and say, we need this, and another school says, no, we need that, or we need something else in place of what you're asking for. So we try to manage that. We also work with the legislators themselves to make sure they have a clear understanding of how funding requests that we're asking for will impact our students, our faculty, our staff, and the overall campus. So a lot of communication is what I'm driving at. How you can get involved is we routinely speak with Senate leadership, both University Senate, Staff Senate, and also student government, their input and their conversations with their constituents. There's a lot of flow of information between us and them. But in addition, if you have an issue, bring it up through your dean or your vice president or your supervisor, bring it up for consideration. We act really quickly. When we hear from faculty or staff that there is an item of concern, we figure out, should there be a university policy or position on this? And if so, how do we move out and how do we capture the voice of the faculty or staff member who has an interest? And then finally, Melanie, you and I talked about this earlier today. If you choose to voluntarily give testimony, which you can all do as citizens, and we encourage you to use your voice how you best see fit. If you submit written testimony or verbal testimony, and it's not on behalf of the university, in other words, if I or one of the leadership team doesn't ask you to do this, then you're speaking in a personal capacity. And in that case, it's vital for you to say, I'm a professor of chemistry, and I'm speaking in my personal capacity, given the knowledge that I've devised my entire career, my 30 years, and here's how I feel about this issue. Make sure that you state that It's your own personal opinion, and it doesn't reflect the position of your university. It's important that you do that. There will be times where we might ask you to speak on behalf of an official position of the university, but it'll be very clear when it's that case. In all other cases, you're speaking as an individual, and make sure they understand that. Melanie, you can add to whatever I missed on that point.
You answered it perfectly, President Armacost. What I would add is if anyone has any questions regarding the specifics, if you go to Policy Stat and search for political activities, the detailed political activities policy is outlined there. And then if you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So feel free to email me directly as well.
And let me repeat, it's your right as a citizen to use your voice, whether it's at the ballot box, whether it's in these policy development stages and legislative sessions and so forth. So there we go.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Be good citizens. Yep.
Next question, I'm going to send over to our Associate Vice President, Matt Kibben. Matt, what are the infrastructure and construction projects that are planned for this spring and summer? And in addition to some that may be university projects, I will add, what do you know about what will happen with the Colombia overpass and the Demers and 42nd underpass?
Thank you, Melanie. Great questions. The infrastructure projects across campus we're working on right now is electrical upgrades across campus, some steam upgrades, particularly with the condensate return lines that are nearing the end of their useful life. We're in the process of working through the design on the STEM project, which probably won't kick off until fall or a little bit later. But Hislop will be abated and start to prepare for demolition of that structure. Let me think other projects. And then, as typical over the summer months, we'll be running fast and hard towards the completion of many deferred maintenance projects. With regard to Columbia overpass, in conversations with Brian Larson upstairs, it sounds like the city anticipates construction to begin in March, but do not anticipate closing Columbia until May, hopefully post end of semester, so that there's minimal impact to the students and to those of us that are working here. And then it will remain, or is anticipated to remain, closed through, October, early November timeframe. Pretty significant project. They'll be raising the bridge off of the piers and replacing the bearing points. So that's the timeline that, as I understand it, for that project. And then the project on 42nd Street is the construction of the underpass under the railroad. Construction's anticipated to begin in the summer of 2026 and will continue through 2027. That will essentially shut down travel through or on 42nd to campus during that period of time. We will also close golf course operations for years 26 and 27, calendar years 26 and 27. Did I miss anything?
Thank you so much. The next question I'm going to send over to Vice President Mojan Stewart. Vice President Mojan Stewart, can you talk about the Huron study and just what part of it can we anticipate next?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm clicking and nothing's happening here. There we go. So I have, I'm happy to put in the post so people can look at it after, since I know we're running short on time. Peggy did provide an update on where the Huron project is at. So I will post that into the follow-up so everybody can see the details. But basically, the protected classwork that has been completed, the analysis and development of the new staff architecture has been completed, and this entailed the review of over 1,800 position descriptions and was led by Huron, and then incorporated with the compensation team and all the HR managers. The new staff job architecture is expected to be finalized this spring. And let's see, meetings for employees to learn more about this new job architecture and ask questions will be scheduled this spring in a variety of platforms so that all employees may participate. And she also just noted that this is a reminder that this is a multi-year project. When increases are needed, planning will occur according to funding source and funds available. She has more information on here as well. So again, I will definitely post that on the site when we're done. And if you have any more questions, please follow up with Peggy Varberg.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to President Armacost. We are at the 1 o'clock hour. We have a few more questions, but President Armacost, I will defer to you.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. And to be respectful of those who have to go, go. Those who can stay, we'll stay for a few more minutes to round out these questions. There's no obligation because I realize people have other commitments that probably began 1 minute ago. It turns out Carla and I have a meeting with each other at 1 o'clock, so we can delay the start. So at least she and I will be here. And for those online, if you have to go too, feel free to just sign off. We appreciate you being here. So we'll allow people to shuffle out, and we'll continue and try to get all the information. If there's some additional information we need to provide in writing afterwards, we'll do that as well. But it's just easier to keep going if we can do it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. On the next question, I am going to turn over to Dr. Tambaqui Bailey. What events that are already on the UND calendar for university staff, faculty, and students, such as the one called Disability Awareness Day in March, move forward while we wait to hear about the impact of DEI in higher education and here at UND?
Thank you, Vice President Linder. My short answer is yes. We need to continue to move forward. Those programs that kind of fall under my purview, we will continue to plan and execute those programs. I encourage others to do so. We are in a wait and see period. When we have more information, that will lead us to have to make different decisions. But as it stands right now, I want to encourage everyone that we keep moving forward, that we keep continuing to serve our campus. And that means all of us. And so I think these programs are very important. And the Disability Awareness Day is March 17. So those things are still on the calendar.
President Armacost.
Let me just add to the Disability Day, for example. We still have a requirement to satisfy the Americans with Disabilities Act. There's a lot of work going on with respect to digital accessibility. This is a vital get together for our campus, but it's not just intended for those who have disabilities. It's intended to be an opportunity for everyone on our campus, as Tambaqui points out, to come together and understand the issues and drive towards good solutions for our campus. Again, with the goal of making our campus for everyone.
Thank you so much. The next question I'll take. It's the university website search engine does not function, or it functions horribly, and it often brings back irrelevant results. What can be done to make it more efficient and have more specific results? I really appreciate the question. So the university web team reports to the Division of Marketing and Communications, and we partner with UIT to make sure that the website works, functions as we hope it will. I'm going to take this question back to our teams and have them really work out a plan on why the functions are not bringing out the results that we desire. And Madhavi, I see you just popped up. Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, Melanie. I'm Madhavi Marasinghe. I'm the Chief Information Officer at UND. So we are actually in the middle of migrating our search engine. So we are fine-tuning as we go. We will also take a look at the logs to see what kind of issues we have, and then address those during the migration as well.
Thank you so much, Madhavi, and great question. The next question I'm going to turn to President Armacost to answer. President Armacost, will the university community be able to evaluate the vice presidents and the president for an annual evaluation?
Yeah, currently we don't have that process in place, and it's a fair question. Let me just speak about what you're allowed to do about me. Of course, on a 3-year rotating basis, the State Board of Higher Education does a 360-degree evaluation. Mine was done, I guess, about a year and 2-3 months ago, and it's a great opportunity for you to provide feedback. That will continue for the president. And I know there was a report written a few years back about such an idea for vice presidents and other similarly leveled leaders on the campus. And let me take that as something to evaluate and to think about. So thanks so much for that suggestion.
Thank you so much, President Armacost. The next question I'm going to send to Vice President Mojan Stewart, and it's regarding the shuttle that's been running from the 10th Avenue North parking lot to the Memorial Union. It's been said it's not well utilized. The question is, could a Twomley drop-off location be considered to see if that would increase the shuttle usage?
Thank you for the question. That is correct. The shuttle is not being well utilized, and that parking lot is not being well utilized. The reason we opted for one stop only is to ensure the timeliness of the back and forth from that lot. We didn't want to extend that to further locations because it ties up the amount of time it will take people to get to their location, which we had heard prior to instituting the shuttle was a reason people didn't want to take the shuttle, or also the reason some of people don't take the bus service that's on campus is that there are too many spots. So this is not something we are considering at this time, but we are definitely looking at parking for next year and appreciate the feedback, and we'll definitely take that under advisement for future planning.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn the next question over to Associate Vice President Matthew Kibben. And just a question if there's any word when we're going to get housekeeping back in the offices.
Thanks, Melanie. And another good question. What I can say is right now are new to the role, but not new to the university. Corey Schock, as the Director of Operation, and I are currently having conversations about staffing levels and autonomous equipment and other opportunities we have for improving custodial services on campus. At least I feel strongly that Carla would be involved in those conversations, and I haven't presented her a plan yet, so I'm hesitant to share it out to the campus community broadly. But we are studying what it would take to return to office services and emptying trash cans and such as part of our review of custodial services.
Thank you so much. Matt, if you would stay on, are there plans for the now empty Walsh complex?
I am not aware of a plan. Carla, you have any insight here?
I do not. That's one we can follow up on.
Yeah.
All right, great question. I'm going to turn it over to President Armacost for the last question and then let him close it out because it is our last question. During the summer when the overpass is closed, can there be executive support for remote work for those who will be impacted? President Armacost.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful suggestion. Any way that we can make life easier for our folks makes a lot of sense. With that huge caveat, I leave those types of decisions to those who are closer to the action, right? The vice presidents and the unit leads, to be able to manage those types of things. So in concept, it sounds like it would be, when appropriate, a good thing to consider, and we'll keep talking about it at the senior leadership level. So thanks for that suggestion. And I think, Melody, do I close it out? We're
yes,
Bridget Brooks,
over to you.
Yeah, Bridget Brooks, you wrote something here. Hey, let's not forget to support the folks in the Pride Center and reach out to her. She has been so generous with with her time and her contributions to the mission of the Pride Center. Reach out to Bridget Brooks, reach out to Jeff Maliski, who's the director of the Pride Center, if you want to know ways that you can support our LGBTQ students. That spirit of togetherness is what we're about at UND. Hopefully, I haven't looked to see, there's still 261 people aboard. So thanks for listening. And hopefully the information we provided today was useful to you. And if there's other questions, by all means, reach out and ask. Our goal is to get you the information that you need and to make sure that you feel as though you're an important part of this UND community. Let's keep doing what we do, which is supporting one another, educating our students to make sure they go out and support the world and to do great things both in North Dakota and in other places throughout the US and throughout the world. So until next time, we'll see you soon.